Story 1. Mostly other drivers who are clearly not paying attention to what they are doing. Story 2. It is not the driving that makes me angry. It is that I am always angry, and sometimes I have to drive. Story 3. Drivers in the passing lane are moving slower than those in the traveling lane. Story 4. When a driver does not use a turn signal, they may abruptly change lanes or turn. Story 5. People who pull in front of you and then drive slowly are frustrating. If you want to drive slower than me, why did you not just stay back there? Story 6. The utter lack of consideration is striking. We all have somewhere to go, and there is no situational awareness on a major fucking highway. People are just in the way and do not get it. Story 7. I do not act on it, but when someone ignores the rules that keep us safe on the road, it upsets me. Vehicles can cause serious injury or financial loss with the slightest contact. Story 8. The new white headlights on cars are far too bright. Cannot see. Bring back the yellow headlights. It is a nightmare for low cars. Story 9. Drivers stop at a green light to let someone pull out of a parking lot into the street in front of them. Inevitably, both cars make it through the intersection, and I am left waiting through the next red light. Story 10. When someone pulls out of a driveway and drives 10 miles per hour while I'm traveling 35 miles per hour. Story 11. People who drive 5 to 10 miles per hour below the speed limit when no one is in front of them. Story 12. When people drive right next to me or into my blind spot, it is very annoying. The most irritating thing is when two cars drive side by side and block the street, preventing anyone from passing. Story 13. Drivers who fail to accelerate to highway speed on an on-ramp and try to merge at 20 miles per hour while traffic is traveling 70 miles per hour. Drivers who brake on highways when there are no obstructions ahead. Lifting off the accelerator will slow you naturally without using the brake. Drivers who start braking long before an exit ramp. On most ramps you are expected to slow down on the ramp, not 1 mile before it. Drivers who slow down to look at accidents. Two vehicles, including tractor-trailers, passing each other with a vanishingly small difference in speed, while both travel below the speed limit, causing long backups as they take too long to pass. Drivers who fail to use their turn signal. Drivers who crawl through turns at 1 mile per hour or who do not accelerate while turning. A car will not flip from a stop to highway speed during a normal turn, and there is no need to remain at 1 mile per hour for the entire turn. Story 14. Drivers who remain in the left lane, forcing faster traffic to pass on the right. Drivers who speed up whenever I try to pass, as if it were an affront to their ego. Drivers who look at their phones while driving, delaying several seconds at left turn advances and causing others to miss the light. Drivers who tailgate and act as if I am a moron for slowing in a construction zone. Drivers who refuse to accelerate to highway speed in the merging lane, forcing me to merge into traffic traveling over 110 kilometers per hour while I am going about 60 kilometers per hour. Some people are so oblivious to their surroundings that it drives me nuts. Story 15. Nothing. I do not experience road rage. I worked in the emergency department too long to risk my body in that kind of senseless behavior. I am the person who has to call your wife and tell her what happened. Story 16. It was something I learned from the relative who taught me to drive and who was a professional truck driver. He was uptight and stressed all the time on the road. He would never have done anything dangerous. He just got angry and expressed it verbally. At 16, I internalized that reactive anger and the attitude, and it quickly grew. My anger never caused an accident, but I did many rude and thoughtless things on the road when I felt wronged. It took me about 20 years after I had children to realize why I felt anger and stress behind the wheel and to change my attitude and behavior. Changing took almost no time once I consciously realized a few facts. First, I had been copying a wrong attitude. Second, if I drive near the limits of my car or my reaction time, I will eventually hurt someone. Third, traffic works best when people cooperate rather than compete. Interestingly, I drove for an hour last week with that same relative in the passenger seat. He kept pointing out the rude things other drivers were doing. It felt strange, because I still noticed them, but I do not care anymore. I do not mind braking briefly for someone who merged incorrectly. I no longer get uptight. I have been in the wrong enough times that I am quick to forgive. Story 17. Driving is frustrating, especially when others around me are poor drivers. It does not help that I am not a good driver either. Story 18. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. Driving is dangerous, and no one takes it seriously. Story 19. People who take scenic routes in the left lane on the highway do not know whether they are turning left, continuing straight, or turning right, so they weave across lanes while deciding. When traffic is heavy and they leave 10 car lengths to the vehicle ahead, they contribute to the problem. Story 20. It is clear that the other driver has the right of way at a four-way intersection, but they wave me through. What are you waiting for? Story 21. If someone is tailgating me, I drive exactly the speed limit and pretend you do not exist. I hate when people stop an inch from my bumper at red lights, do not know how to merge onto the highway, or slam on their brakes to let merging traffic in. I am a pretty chill guy, but when it comes to driving I turn into the Hulk. Story 22. Drivers who do not accelerate to match highway traffic when using a fully extended merging lane create hazards. Those long merging lanes are designed to give space to accelerate and merge, so you should increase your speed. Story 23. The left lane is for passing. On roads with more than 2 lanes, the farther left you are, the faster the traffic typically moves. Story 24. I used to ride motorcycles. I stopped only because I have to drive my kids to school. You can see how traffic builds and clears. Controversial opinion, but it is primarily because the country does not enforce a low cruising speed during rush hour, which causes drivers to speed and creates amplified braking and accelerating interactions between cars. If we drove like a busy school of fish, slower, steady, and keeping distance, traffic would be much lighter. Story 25. Drivers cut in front of me, reducing my safe following distance to 0. When I reestablish a safe following distance, someone cuts in again. Story 26. The biggest problem is people who make me hit my brakes when they pull out, even though there is literally no one behind me. Story 27. I have the same anger as a pedestrian, but no one can hear me scream in my car, so I am taking the anger I have been holding for days out on the driver in front of me who is not using a turn signal. Edit. I only scream to myself and never cause actual traffic issues. Promise. Story 28. Don't cut me off, and for the love of God, don't go 20 kilometers under the speed limit. Story 29. It feels like a competition. If you are not competitive, you would not understand. I never rage at other drivers. I only rage at myself. Story 30. I don't actually act on road rage, but bad mergers that slow everyone else down really annoy me. Also rubberneckers. Forget them. To any would-be road ragers, listening to Till It's Gone by Yelawolf may be dangerous. Story 31. I am not a road rage person anymore. It's not worth the stress. I now leave early enough to be on time and have a little rest before I do the activity at the location. George Carlin sums it up nicely. Have you ever noticed everyone driving slower than you is a total idiot, and anyone going much faster than you is a total maniac? I will say that politeness still frustrates me. Please stop waving people through and pay attention so you know when it's your turn. I am convinced the polite wave through just masks lazy, inattentive drivers who are incapable of more than 3 seconds of attention. Okay, I'm mostly not a road rage person anymore. Story 32. I get no impression that when people from this town get in a vehicle they actually have somewhere to go. It seems they would be perfectly happy to sit in traffic until the city starts charging them rent. I cannot tell you how many times I have sat behind someone who did not move at a green light because they were distracted by their phone. Even after they realize it is green, there is no sense of urgency to make the light. They put their phone away, check their seatbelt, fiddle with the knobs, put the car in gear, and then the light turns red again. Isn't that a fucking shame? Then they take their phone out again to film the driver behind them who is reacting loudly for some inexplicable reason. Story 33. My favorite is people who seem to forget where their exit is on the highway they drive every day. They suddenly try to cut across all lanes, ignoring everyone else. Story 34. People who do not know how to drive. Examples include tailgating. It is dangerous. Failing to signal turns or merges and cutting off other drivers. Driving slowly in the passing lane or driving 10 to 20 miles per hour under the speed limit. Not using the zipper merge in heavy traffic. Failing to dim high beams when approaching oncoming cars. Weaving through traffic as if trying to win a slalom race. Story 35. Every person who is not retired whom I have seen driving below the speed limit or sitting in the passing lane is always using a cell phone and not looking at the road. Story 36. It is very infuriating when I can clearly see someone holding a phone while driving at highway speeds. Story 37. They do not recognize that I am the main character of the highway. Story 38. People think they are more important than others and cannot simply follow the rules that exist to make things better for all of us. Story 39. That driver turned left out of a church parking lot into the left lane of a 75 miles per hour rural highway while I was traveling 80 miles per hour and then did not accelerate. It made me pretty angry yesterday. What a fucking stupid thing to do. He pulled out right in front of a group of vehicles traveling 80 miles per hour. The driver behind me nearly hit me, and a car a few vehicles back nearly struck a vehicle in the right lane while swerving. He clearly was not in a hurry. He could have waited 12 seconds and gradually merged out after our small cluster of cars. Story 40. Other people being too self-absorbed, not aware or considerate of others, or acting like speed enforcement officers and blocking the flow of traffic. Story 41. No matter how much I try to reframe it, I know the person ahead of me is not my grandmother. They are simply very foolish. Story 42. People need to learn to drive. These drivers cause many accidents. Story 43. It probably started with being perimenopausal, but it continued because I don't like people. If they do not drive exactly how I think they should, I get angry. Honestly, it is common sense or a lack of it that makes me so angry when driving. Don't cut me off. Use your turn signals. Maintain a consistent speed. Go slow and I will pass you. Go fast and I can stay comfortably behind you. Don't park inconsiderately. Do not speed up in passing zones and then slow down when the zone ends. Pay attention to the traffic lights and other basic rules. Story 44. Seeing a cyclist not stop when he should. I want to cancel him. Story 45. Fucking idiots who do not know how to drive. They do not use turn signals, tailgate, drive slowly in the fast lane, pull out in front of others and then continue slowly, and endanger other road users including cyclists. Story 46. The most frustrating thing about driving is how many people act as if they are the only person on the road. The road and the experience are shared. Be a smart driver. Do not make a left-hand turn from the right lane or a right turn from the left lane. If you missed your exit, do not cross two lanes at the last minute. Continue and turn around. You messed up, but do not risk everyone for your exit. Pick a lane and stay in it. Do not weave back and forth. Use your turn signal. If I am driving straight in my lane and you are merging onto the freeway from the on-ramp, you must merge by adjusting your speed. Pulling up next to me and nearly causing a crash is not how you merge. Story 47. I did not have road rage, but people need to learn how to use their fucking turn signals. Story 48. I do not get as angry as I used to, but I still think other drivers who slow me down or block me with selfish lane changes are wasting my time. If someone is afraid to drive at highway speeds and goes 20 miles per hour below the limit so I cannot pass, why is that my problem? I dislike being dictated to on the road, but I am less worked up about it than when I was younger. Story 49. Drivers do not use turn signals when turning, and semi-trucks swerve with little or no notice. Story 50. I've been told I have road rage, but I'm not actually mad. It's one of the few places I can blow off steam without hurting anybody. I shout and scream in the car when someone drives stupidly in front of me, then move on with my day. Unless by road rage you mean the kind where someone cuts people off or brake checks others. Absolutely not. Story 51. I may get impatient on the road, but I have never directed road rage at someone. You do not know what someone might be going through or who you are dealing with, so it is better to keep your cool. I would rather not say or do anything I might later regret. Story 52. It is not so much road rage as being a road troll. If someone tailgates me for driving the speed limit on the road or in the slow lane, I do what I can to make their life difficult. Story 53. There is a speed limit and you should be driving it, traffic permitting. On the same note, they are called acceleration lanes for a reason. If you are merging onto a 70 miles per hour highway, you should be doing roughly 70 miles per hour. Use your turn signals. If you linger in the left lane for 5, 10, 15 or more miles just to take a right turn at a stoplight, I hope you disappear. I want to see your story on identification. Some of you have no idea what a one-way lane looks like and cannot read signs. Get off your phone. I will stop here. Story 54. I gave a double-tap honk at a man staring at his phone at a green light today. He got out of his car, punched my window, threatened my life, and yelled at me in Spanish. He is Hispanic. I am a white man in my 40s. He then said, "It's always the fucking bitch-ass Peckerwoods," before driving off and running the now red light. By the way, I did not say a single word during the entire interaction. People are fucking crazy. Story 55. People who are a danger to themselves and others should not be allowed to hold a driver's license. Unfortunately, we live in a car-centric country in which not everyone is mentally equipped to drive safely. Story 56. I do not get road rage, but if you have to ask this question, it is probably because you are a poor driver. The majority of drivers know just enough to be dangerous behind the wheel and nothing about the rules of the road, laws, right-of-way, or best practices. That does not even count the number of people who are actively distracted while in control of an object that can kill tens of people at a moment's notice. If you are not at least internally swearing to yourself about another driver's behavior every 5 minutes, you are probably a large problem for the rest of us. Story 57. You delayed my arrival at the next red light by 3 seconds. I am going to lose my temper. Story 58. Come take a drive through Houston and answer your own question. You will want to whip someone's ass in the middle of the road. Story 59. The fact that seemingly nobody knows how to drive. Story 60. I have calmed down a lot, but these things still randomly upset me. 1. Freeway or highway traffic. I do not mind stop and go traffic or traffic lights on local streets, but being stuck on a freeway bothers me because it is supposed to be fast. 2. Slower driving in the left lane. It does not matter how fast someone is going or what your opinion is of fast drivers. If you are in the left lane and someone behind is going faster, move over. It only takes a few seconds. Story 61. The headlights are too damn bright. You do not need to X-ray my skull from behind. Blinding me as you approach so I cannot see the road does not make you safer. Shout out to the Fuck Your Red Lights subreddit. Story 62. Drivers who are not vigilant, for example those who are distracted or tired, are especially problematic when they are at the front of the line at a red light. You have a responsibility to pay attention. Otherwise you are wasting your time and everyone else's. Story 63. Passing on a double line. You are going to kill someone doing that. It is a no passing zone for a reason. Story 64. I don't have road rage, but I hate driving because our society in the United States has devolved into too many entitled drivers and people who do not consider anyone else. I support the return of driver's education classes like those offered in high school long ago. Not many know the laws or have any consideration for others. Perhaps you should ask yourself, are you a considerate, attentive driver? If not, why? Story 65. Drivers who drive too slowly and those who do not use their turn signals correctly, whether because they do not know when to use them, choose not to, or forget to turn them off. Story 66. People who drive 100 miles per hour and weave in and out of lanes recklessly. Story 67. Drivers who engage in dangerous or reckless behavior that could lead to a car crash. Story 68. I had severe road rage in my 20s. The perceived disrespect was my number one issue. If you are not driving with the flow of traffic, you increase my risk, which I cannot afford because my entire livelihood depends on my ability to get to work. I interpreted other drivers' car body language and projected motivations onto them. Anxiety also played a huge part. Story 69. These people aren't angry because of driving. They're angry because they are simply living. Their reactions are often anonymous and have no consequences until that changes. Story 70. Other drivers. Consumer Reports, 2012. Story 71. Being tailgate sets me off. I sustained a brain injury and almost died in a highway accident where I was rear-ended on ice, which pushed me into traffic like a pinball. Story 72. This thread brings back many terrifying memories of riding with my dad when I was younger. So many scared faces in other cars. I was really surprised he did not have more accidents. It helped me not get worked up when someone like him would be screaming at me from his pickup truck as a young driver. Drivers who are oblivious to any etiquette do bother me, but I cannot let it lead to the red-faced rage I saw in my father. I never understood that anger, so it was not a big restraint for me. Laughing out loud. Story 73. Honestly, I don't even know what it is, but I get much angrier when I'm driving. Maybe it's because I'm literally operating something worth thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of my life, and other people drive like they do not care about that or about their lives. Not to mention that people's lives are at risk. So actually maybe I do know, laughing out loud. Driving recklessly can have serious consequences, and people doing reckless things make me deeply angry because they have a blatant disregard for their own safety and for the safety of others. Story 74. Dude, you can turn right on red. Fucking turn. Many drivers cannot tell the difference between a red light and a red arrow. Story 75. Semi-trailer trucks sit in the lane to the right of the passing lane. We have 4 to 5 lane highways throughout my city, and they often move even slower than the traffic to their right. They should move 1 lane farther to the right and stop slowing down the 2 faster left lanes, forcing other drivers to squeeze around them. Also, construction dump trucks filled with rocks drive in the center lane and throw debris to the right and left. Neither the left nor the right side is safe for passing because you cannot get far enough away from them. I do not road rage, but I get very annoyed at these drivers. Story 76. As someone who drives for a living, what bothers me most is people's utter disregard for the safety of other drivers. We are all trying to get somewhere in a timely manner. There is absolutely no reason to cut anyone off. Just plan ahead. Every navigation application gives plenty of advance notice. Do not wait until the last second to change 3 lanes. Large trucks that you do not want to get stuck behind cannot stop as quickly as a sedan. Do not change lanes at red lights just to get in front of a large truck that has not yet stopped. Learn how to merge. I cannot stress this enough. A turn signal does not mean anything when you are parallel to my passenger door. Either merge fully in front of me or wait your turn. It is not my responsibility to let you in. Story 77. Left lane camping, driving at half the speed limit, and tailgating. Not using the accelerator when entering a highway. If it is 55 miles per hour and you see me coming and you literally run a stop sign just to get ahead of me, please travel at a reasonable speed, not 35 miles per hour. This literally happened. Honestly, much of what people fail at is basic etiquette and common sense while driving, and the absolute stupidity of it drives me mad. Story 78. Drivers going slower than I am are idiots, and drivers going faster than I am are crazy. Story 79. I don't get it. If someone almost hits me, I get upset. But if someone is driving too slowly, I think, okay, who cares? The other day my dad was driving 90 miles per hour on the thruway with me and my baby son in the car, and he was getting upset because people would not let him pass. What the heck? Calm down. It is not that serious. We will get there when we get there. Story 80. I think driving highlights people who do not consider others or how their actions affect them. You acquire responsibility for the lives of many people when driving, so at least pay some attention to it. I dislike giving that much control over my daily life to people who check their phones or cannot learn and follow basic rules. You are forced to accept that risk whenever you drive. I am not a big road rager, but I get annoyed and think most people are idiots after a day when I drive a lot. I do not drive often, thanks to working from home. Story 81. Blinding headlights, including high beams left on. Story 82. When people insist on being first at the risk of others. Story 83. Drivers in the passing lane who are not passing anyone. Story 84. Believe it or not, coffee from fast food restaurants energizes me a lot. If I don't drink it, I am calm. Story 85. The lights turned yellow 4 or 5 times in a row. Story 86. I live near Brampton. For those who are not aware, the Brampton driving subreddit has many examples. 90% of my road rage is caused by Brampton drivers. Story 87. I do not necessarily have bad road rage. I am just tired of drivers and pedestrians making reckless decisions that inconvenience or endanger others. It would not be so bad if 1 or 2 people made these decisions every other week, but it is so frequent that my intolerance for their inconsiderate behavior has built up over time. Story 88. People change lanes for no goddamn reason. They are always going slower than you, even when their lane is open. What the fuck? Story 89. Other people purposefully behaving aggressively. For example, camping in the left lane on the highway or tailgating at dangerous speeds. Story 90. As you get older, you are more likely to lose loved ones in traffic accidents caused by someone else being careless or negligent. Driving is probably the most dangerous regular activity we do, and approaching it with anything less than full attention and respect deserves the anger of others. George Carlin paraphrased this observation. Did you ever notice how everyone who drives faster than you is a maniac and everyone who drives slower is a moron? Story 91. Some people are oriented toward rules. They like rules, follow them, expect others to follow them, and become cranky when others do not. Consider driving. You need a license to drive and you must pass a test to get one. I know the rules and I assume you know them as well. If you know the rules, why are you not following them? Story 92. When drivers travel at the speed limit in the fast lane and try to slow other drivers down. Story 93. Slow drivers in the left lane, drivers not using turn signals, and drivers deliberately driving alongside my vehicle to prevent me from passing. Story 94. There is an enormous amount of traffic every day. I just want to get to work and return home in as little time as possible. I am angry because it does not have to be this way. It is a huge failure of government, forcing everyone to return to the office and failing to build or maintain roads and public transit. Housing near workplaces is unaffordable, so many of us are forced to commute at least an hour each way. The government no longer works for the people, at least in the United States. Story 95. What really gets my blood boiling is watching someone do something ridiculous that does not even benefit them. You want to cut me off because there are 100 cars behind me? Fine, I will get over. But there are no cars behind me. Why do you need to get around me on an empty freeway? Now, the way you choose is to aggressively race me on the left, knowing full well I am already halfway into the lane you intend to move into, when you could have just continued straight since I was getting out of your way. Half the time these people move back into the right lane afterward. The cherry on top is people who then rage and scream at you as if you did what they just did. Once a man in an extended cab truck pulling the longest trailer I have ever seen on a non-commercial vehicle turned right on red knowing my straight light was green and that I was about 10 feet away. He took forever because he was so long, literally sitting in the intersection for about 5 seconds while he finished his turn. I honked as you do. He then drove parallel to me for the next few blocks with his friend hanging out of the window, flipping me off and screaming. You were the one who almost got T-boned. Story 96. I must be missing the gene that makes me angry while driving. Even if someone does something reckless, I'm just chilling, listening to Fleet Foxes and happy. Story 97. Assholes and clueless fucks are endangering my life. Story 98. I'm not a driver, but I get angry when someone tries to kill me because they are in a hurry, on their phone, drunk, tired, or late for work. Story 99. Driving is very dangerous and should be taken seriously. I was in a bad accident and I know how easily things can go wrong. Watching people drive carelessly and recklessly, as if it were no big deal, enrages me. Story 100. The real problem with traffic congestion is that the government has no incentive to make roads adapt to society's needs. Story 101. I've never gotten road rage, but I do feel significant hatred for everyone on the road if I'm running late for work. Story 102. I love sitting in a long line of cars, only for someone to drive in the other lane and cut in at the last possible minute. Story 103. People taking unnecessary risks, thereby putting my vehicle and personal safety at risk, for no effect on the speed of their commute. Why do they work so hard to get in front of me when there is an acre of open space behind me? Absolute loons. Story 104. Nothing makes me angrier on the road than people who do not know how to merge correctly when entering or exiting the interstate. Story 105. A lack of consideration for other motorists and the sense of entitlement that leads people to put themselves above other road users. Story 106. Other people exist and are not sharing my misery right now. My small penis does not contribute anything productive to the situation. Story 107. Drivers who wait until the last second to change lanes try to squeeze between your car and another with only about one car length between them instead of slowing down to fall in behind. Half the time, they do not even use their turn signals. Story 108. Light-emitting diode headlights, lifted trucks, and police-branded sport utility vehicles. Drivers who wave you on when they should go, who fail to zipper merge, who cut you off and then make an obscene gesture when you honk, and who weave across multiple lanes are infuriating. They cross 2 lanes, pass to the right into the middle lane, cut back into the left lane, then cross 3 lanes to get into the right lane. Calm down. The general attitude that we are not driving 2 to 5-ton vehicles, with a sometimes vaguely painted line supposedly keeping us from killing each other, is terrifying. I used to assume they cut me off because they had a relative in the hospital, but I have seen too many of those people pull into McDonald's to care anymore. Everyone seems like the worst driver. Story 109. I normally do not have road rage, but what really gets under my skin is when someone pulls out in front of me and turns onto the next block. Story 110. What bothers me is tailgating by big trucks with their light-emitting diode headlights on, the lack of proper turn signal use, and drivers treating stop signs as yield signs. Story 111. Generally, it is either that someone is running late and other people are messing around, or they are having a terrible day at work or school and want to get home but others are delaying them because they are fooling around. Story 112. There are 2 issues. Vehicles in the left lane are traveling below the speed limit, and vehicles in the left lane have their hazard lights on during light rain. Story 113. People who camp in the passing lane inevitably cause congestion, unnecessary lane changes, and more accidents. Story 114. It is usually someone hitting their brakes because you are behind them in the left lane, and they think you are wrong to expect them to move or go faster. Story 115. Drivers not using their turn signals when turning. Story 116. Bicyclists, motorcyclists, and pedestrians who cross the street outside a crosswalk in heavy traffic. Drivers who travel slowly in the fast lane. Drivers who do not use turn signals. Drivers who play very loud music with their windows down. Story 117. Bad drivers. Good drivers turn bad because they can't look away from their screens. There are also drivers who do not pull up to the stop line at red lights, the car in front of them. I can understand leaving just enough space to steer out, but those who say it's to escape often leave 50 car lengths between vehicles. That's inconsiderate driving. Someone at the back of the intersection gets ticketed because you couldn't be bothered to learn your car's dimensions. Some claim they might need to escape even when concrete barriers are on both sides. When traffic moves, they end up breathing the exhaust of the car in front because they are tailgating so closely. We accept the risk of texting and driving but refuse to accept the inconvenience of waiting at red lights. Story 118. People who do not understand roundabouts. Why are you honking at me while I am in the circle and you are waiting to enter? In what fucking world does a stop driver ever have the right of way over a driver who is moving? Story 119. Turning on your signal as you changed lanes, who was that for? It was not for me. You signaled too late to count as a proper lane change, and it was not for the police. Was it for you? Why bother? Story 120. People with road rage will find a reason to become angry. Simply imagining what you might do or think can trigger them. Story 121. I suspect anyone feeling rage while driving needs to reevaluate their life. 30 seconds wasted is not worth the aggravation. Story 122. I am a very aggressive road rager. Completely unreasonable and toxic. At the core, what pisses me off is when someone is inconsiderate in their vehicle but would not behave that way in normal interactions, or when they do not act like a polite member of society. What triggers me the most is cutting into a line. I would absolutely hit someone. Story 123. I am a road salesman. When I started in my early 30s, I was a fairly aggressive driver. Now that I'm older, I'm that guy in the right lane going 58 on a 55 miles per hour highway. I've seen way too many bad things happen to be bothered anymore. People suck. Story 124. People who do not reach 100 kilometers per hour when merging onto a major highway. Story 125. I have a couple of friends with road rage who drive very poorly. They swerve, do not always use turn signals, do not know how to use turn lanes, and are highly unpredictable. 75% of the time they are yelling at someone for almost being a victim of their own bad driving. I do not think they realize how poorly they drive. If I told them, I am almost certain they would say I am wrong. Story 126. I'll just name a couple. Drivers who expect everyone else to compensate for their lack of awareness, and people who drive the speed limit and stay in the left lane. Story 127. Another car and I pull up to a four-way intersection facing each other, and we both have solid green lights. I have my right turn signal on, and they are not signaling. We are at a standstill. I then turn right and they turn left. Story 128. I wouldn't say I have road rage, but I talk trash about terrible drivers when I'm alone in the car. I say things like, "Good job, you fucking idiot," or "Nice move, douchebag." I never brake check people, yell at them, or flip them off, except for the one guy who cut me off to get one space ahead at a red light. He rolled down his window, yelled at me, and flipped me off because I lightly honked at him. So I gave him the finger back and said, "Fuck you, buddy." Typical Canadian shit, you know. Story 129. I read that it can be about territory. You might dislike tourists, and if you do not know the person, it is easier to lash out at them. From my personal experience, I have had difficulty regulating my emotions. Story 130. Inconsiderate driving or actions that put others in danger make me rage. I do not rage as much as I used to. I mainly curse them to myself. Example. A black truck cuts me off without using a turn signal, and I silently call the driver a goddamn dumbfucker. Story 131. General misbehavior. People do not behave when they drive. We are all on the road for a reason. I want to fulfill that reason without trouble. Most days I do not get more than half a mile down the road before I encounter my first idiot. They are everywhere. Story 132. I used to get very angry about many of the things I read here. They still bother me, but they no longer provoke the anger and frustration they once did. Now, the only thing that truly makes me angry is people who do stupid things in their cars and then have the nerve to flip me off or insult me. I still change my plans quickly to avoid that kind of behavior. Story 133. People who drive 40 miles per hour when the speed limit is 45 miles per hour. When I try to pass them, they accelerate to 60 miles per hour to prevent me from passing. Once the possibility of my leaving is gone and I am still stuck behind them, they slow back to 40 miles per hour. Story 134. I got couch rage just reading this. Why are you so mad? Story 135. People who speed up when I use my turn signal and I have 2 car lengths to change lanes are frustrating. They speed up, I move over, then they slam on their brakes and get mad at me for driving normally. Why do some people try to intimidate others to keep them out of a lane? Anyone who does this should not be allowed to drive. This does not cause me road rage. It usually causes road rage in the driver who sped up to block me. If someone wants to change lanes, who am I to stop them? What a ridiculous concept. Story 136. People who do not turn into the correct lane, then pass on the right while my right blinker is on. I will fight someone over this. Story 137. Driving blows. Story 138. If I am speeding in the left lane, why is it my problem that you want to drive faster than I do? Story 139. I am an extremely chill person, easygoing with legendary patience. But when I get behind the wheel, I change. I am not a rage monster and I do not drive recklessly. But I say more unkind things under my breath while driving than I ever do outside a car. I have never figured out why. There are plenty of frustrating moments outside of driving, so I do not know what makes it different. Story 140. You're stopping when you should be going and vice versa. Story 141. People who stay in the left lane while going 1 mile per hour faster than the person in the right lane should give it a little gas and pass already. Story 142. People are not paying attention. They text, do not know the rules of the road, and are not familiar with San Francisco. If you do not live in the city, please take an Uber. Story 143. When someone drives 20 miles per hour below the speed limit in the fast lane, it causes instant rage. Story 144. If someone flashes their lights at you in the fast lane, move the fuck over. This is the fast lane, you idiot. Story 145. People who do not turn right on red even though there is no sign prohibiting it. Story 146. Non-signal users, phone users, tailgaters, and people who do not use their turn signals until the last minute, forcing me to slam on my brakes. They are not necessarily bad drivers. Many people are still learning, but there is a difference between inexperienced and reckless drivers. Story 147. People in the left lane are going slow. Like, what the fuck, dude? Pull over, you dumb fuck. Story 148. People who are behind me and honk as soon as the light turns green are annoying. I am not going to go immediately when it turns green. People are killed that way because other drivers run the light that just turned red. Next time it happens, I plan to turn off my car, lock my doors, and start reading a book to make them wait. As for people who cut in front of me, I lay on my horn until they turn off or are no longer in front of me. Story 149. People have zero consideration for other drivers on the road. I was going 80 miles per hour in the left lane, and apparently that is not fast enough. Someone was following me too closely. I tried to pass a driver who was going literally 20 miles per hour, under the speed limit, and they sped up so I could not pass and then continued to drive very slowly. People pull out in front of me when I am going 50 miles per hour on a main road, almost causing an accident. This happens every single day. I am so tired of it. Story 150. In bumper-to-bumper traffic, you are moving at the same speed as the car ahead but leave a bit of space for safety. Then someone cuts in front of you, assuming you left that gap for them. Story 151. The anonymity of being in a metal box causes most people to do and say things they would never do or say in person. Story 152. Let's say you are on a busy street. You need to cross 2 lanes to turn into your destination. I hate it when someone stops for me. If it's just one person, you still need to cross the second lane. They might not stop. I guarantee that when you finally go, the person who stopped for you will go too. Then you get this annoying exchange where one person says, "You go," and the other says, "No, you go." I hate it so much. Just go so I can plan for the gap. Story 153. I'm usually calm when driving around my local streets, but today I was on a schedule and the car ahead of me couldn't decide whether to turn right or stay ahead. They straddled the lane, and yes, it irritated me. I hit the horn and yelled inside my car. I don't do road rage. Gore. Story 154. In California, motorcyclists can ride between lanes of cars. That scares me, and I do not understand how this is legal because anyone can be injured. Story 155. A local news report in California says there was a deadly shooting at a stoplight. One driver died. No further information is available. Story 156. I will not answer this question until the person who asked explains how often, where, and why they must drive. Story 157. People driving slowly in the fast lane are breaking the law. Story 158. If someone cuts me off, I take it personally even though I know I should not. Story 159. Some drivers maintain the same speed regardless of the posted limit. They will drive 80 kilometers per hour in a 100 kilometers per hour zone, and then continue at 80 kilometers per hour through a 40 kilometers per hour school zone. It is as if they switch on cruise control and are unaware of their surroundings. Story 160. I had to go to school at 6 a.m. for driver's education, where we were taught specific ways to drive and to create an orderly system for traffic. If I had to learn and follow these rules, others should too. Yield the right of way, turn off high beams, Do not use fog lights continuously, stay in your lane, and in most cases the speed limit is the minimum speed you should be traveling. For goodness sake, use your turn signal when turning on a road with a 50 miles per hour limit. Story 161. Inconsiderate people think the entire world revolves around them. Story 162. People who drive below the speed limit in a no-passing zone are frustrating. I have to drive about 2 miles in a no-passing zone before I reach the main road. I leave for work at 4:30 in the morning, and there is a driver I regularly get stuck behind who drives 30 miles per hour on a 45 miles per hour road. There is not another soul on the road at that time. I have gotten to the point where I can recognize his taillights and just pass him since there is no one else. Do not hold up traffic when others cannot pass you. Story 163. My road rage is usually caused by drivers who drive below the speed limit on fast roads, then speed through residential areas. This is relevant to my area because we have many long, windy roads posted with a speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour and no overtaking lanes. Only marked safe zones for overtaking in the oncoming traffic lane. The process of passing them can take forever on a busy road. It is dangerous and exhausting. Those same roads then slow to 50 kilometers per hour through built-up areas, so you spend time overtaking them only to have them fly past and then you are stuck behind them again at a snail's pace. I find it infuriating. Story 164. I watch people make the same 5 to 7 mistakes every time I drive. Story 165. It is infuriating when people are inconsiderate or act stupid. When someone pulls out in front of me so I have to brake hard, then drives like a snail, it is maddening. You are in such a rush to cut in front of me only to drive as if your life depends on going slowly. Story 166. Just dumb shit people do. One day I got in my car and thought to myself, I am not going to get upset. 5 minutes later, a guy tried to force himself into my lane, and I did not see his signal because it was in my A-pillar. He honked. I stopped, rolled my window down, and told him calmly that I had the right of way. He yelled at me to fuck off. What the fuck? Totally ruined my good drive speech. For fuck's sake. Story 167. Years of anger, combined with people behaving unethically, inconsiderately, or illegally. Story 168. Driving is easy and the rules make sense. If everyone followed them, people would know what others are doing and traffic would flow optimally. Unfortunately, not everyone follows the rules, so driving becomes chaotic and inefficient. When I spot a single weak link in the chain, I whisper a mild curse so they feel the slight pain they caused me. Story 169. A word that starts with R and I am not supposed to use it anymore. Story 170. When 18-wheelers cut me off and forced me to slow down by 20 miles per hour below my previous speed, and there is nobody behind me and you did not have the right of way, let me go so they can pass. You complain about four-wheelers cutting you off. Do not cut us off. Story 171. Drivers who disregard others create dangerous situations. When people ignore traffic laws or drive well below the speed limit, they force others who must reach a destination, especially in emergencies, to pass them, increasing the risk of accidents. Story 172. When a semi-truck moves into the passing lane and drives 10 miles per hour below the speed limit, coming within a car length of me, I have to hit the brakes. Story 173. I hate when people don't use their turn signals, have their high beams on in town, drive fast for no reason, tailgate me, and then get upset and cut me off when I'm driving the speed limit. It's genuinely people being careless while driving. Story 174. Several studies show that most people involved in severe road rage are not truly angry about the driving incident. They are angry about something else in their lives and are triggered by an event while driving, which redirects their anger. Story 175. When I am trying to switch lanes and the driver in the other lane speeds up, or when I am trying to turn but cars keep coming and people behind me get impatient and pressure me instead of going around, especially when there are two lanes, I will not turn until I feel it is safe. I do not care how late you are. Story 176. You are driving in the left lane at the same speed as the car to your right, in its blind spot, with no cars ahead of you and several cars behind you. I see you impeding traffic every day. Are you totally clueless or just an asshole? Story 177. If you are camping in the left lane, There are better places to camp. Story 178. I do not actually rage. The two most annoying things are 1. Drivers who pull out of a driveway into my lane, see me, and make no attempt to accelerate to reduce how much I must slow down to avoid hitting them. 2. Drivers who travel well below the average traffic speed in the left lane, forcing others to weave around them and creating unsafe lane changes. Story 179. People from other countries who do not know the driving laws in the United States of America. Story 180. I understand people who constantly use their brakes. If you have never driven on a curvy mountain road, please pull aside. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.